So in today's video, I'm going to teach you how to bend 15mm copper using these Rothenberger 15 to 22mm pipe benders. I'm going to teach you how to do an offset and a Passover. Let's do this.
That was terrible. Cut.
What do you mean? Okay, so you're going to need a ruler, 15mm pipe guide, marker pen or a pencil, a protractor. So I took this from my son's pencil case, if I'm being honest. Shh. A tape measure, maybe, because to be honest with you, I'm using the ruler on this, so I'm not actually using the tape measure. And a 15mm Rothenberg pipe bender, so 15 to 22mm Rothenberger pipe benders. So let's get into it. Obviously you need some 15mm pipe, and we're going to be doing a offset. So on this first one we're going to be doing here will be an offset. So we're going to start off by pulling a 45. So you're going to put your pipe in the pipe benders on the 15mm side. Like so. It's got a little catch to hook onto your pipe. And then, as you can see there, it says 45, so that will be our first 45mm. I've marked it on my benders on the actual nut, so I know where the centre of the actual bend is itself. So I've marked it so it lines up. So we're going to pop that inside of the clips that we've got there. And then what we're going to do is get another piece of 15mm copper, and then line it up where it would be. And then you want to mark across the center line, as you can see, like that. So mark across like that. Pull your bit of copper out. And then you want to mark across the center of that line you've done there. You want to mark across the center of it. And then you can either get a tape measure or a ruler. And this is the measure back technique I was talking about. Then you want to measure back 35mm. From that mark. So we're measuring back 35mm from that mark. You can mark the whole way round, I'd recommend. And then you want to pull it in the actual benders, but do you see it's on the edge? So my mark is right on the edge of that, of the former. Do you see? I'm just trying to sort that out now. Do you see? So it's right on the edge, that mark for measure back one. Then we bend another 45. Do you see? So center mark onto the center point where it says 45. Pull that out. And then there you have it. That's an offset. So I'll show you here. This sort of precision that you're doing here. So look, if you pop this. Stop the video just for 1 second. Oh look, this is the boring bit, but I've got to say it. For all those that aren't subscribing, press the subscribe button, please. And like, it massively helps my page. All right, thank you. This is precision pipe bending. So if you want to get from one point to another precisely, like that, that is how you do that, by using the measure back. So that is called an offset. That's the simplest way I can explain to do it with 15mm pipe. We're going to be doing other videos on different size pipes and different types of bends. And then, to be honest with you, in the real world, a lot of the time, most people, like myself, you can see it, so you know what distance you've got to come and things like that. But I do actually use this measure back technique for this. If I've got two pipes alongside each other and I need them to be exactly the same, I'll make sure that I use the measure back technique. But a lot of the time I can eye it up. And the other thing you've got to watch out for is snaking. So when you bend the pipe, you've got to make sure the pipe is still straight. So look, pop it on top of there. Can you see it rocks a little bit? So sometimes it needs a bit of persuasion, so like this here. So I'm basically forcing it straight. Don't be wrong, if you bend, you start getting used to bending after a while, and you shouldn't get too much snaking on it. But yeah, sometimes you've got to physically, this is like real world plumbing I'm talking about here. So yeah, like I say, there's nothing wrong with giving it a little bit of a bend. Or persuading it. So now we're gonna move on to the offset first, and then we're gonna do a Passover. So we're gonna do 2 bends in one, but again, with precision. So the idea is on this video is to show you how to do it precisely. So we're not doing it in a vise. I know in colleges, I learned how to actually do most of this in a vise, but in the real world, you won't really be having a vise set up, to be honest with you, on site. Right, so again, we're going to pull the 45, which is the first bend. This is for the offset. Do you see where the marker is? So my mark's on there, and it lines up with the center of the 45. It's actually quite hard for me to watch it and explain it to you at the same time. It's quite tricky, but look, I'm doing my best. So again, we're putting that inside the clips. And then we're putting another piece of 15mm pipe inside our other clips. And then again, we're gonna mark the center line. So we found our center line, and then we need to find the center point of that line. Do you see, like this? And then from there, because we've pulled a 45, we're gonna measure back 35mm. That's it, so measure back 35mm. Like I say, you can use a tape measure. I'm using a ruler on this one. I usually just keep a ruler in my tool bag. But again, this is for precision. You can imagine the pipe work's on show and you want it to look correct. You want to make sure it's right, so pop that in there. You can put the ruler across to see whether the pipe's snaking or not, to straighten it. I usually like to eye it up, so I'll look down the pipe and see whether it's straight or not. So like there, I was meant to pull a complete 45 and I didn't. So now I'm gonna pull it across. But yeah, the first time around I didn't actually pull 45 correctly. So I looked at it, I was like, hold on, something's not right here, and pulled it across. Right, so now we're offering it up where we want to do our Passover. So the Passover, we want to be bang in the middle of that. So we're marking the center point of where we're looking to pass over, like so. And then we're going to measure back. So on this particular one, we're measuring back 40mm. So take notes of these measurements. So we're measuring back 40mm because we're going to do a bend of 65. So I've put my protractor on the actual guide to find, on the former rather, do you see like this, to find where 65 is? 65 is right there. So I've put a little mark on there so I know when I'm doing a Passover, that is where it's, you can either scratch it on or, like I say, I just do it with a marker pen. So now I'm checking for snaking. I'm looking down the pipe, eyeing it up, and then I'm going to pull a 65, like so. And like I say, I've put a marker on this so I know how far to pull it from. Okay, so that's the first bend you want to do when you're doing a Passover. So then we've got a center point there, and we want to measure 50mm either side, or either side, whatever, either side like that, and that's where we'll be bending from. So measure 50mm from that center point, and then we want to pull a 35mm bend. I'm sure it's 45. So look, we'll pop in there. So from that 50mm point, we'll put that on the former where I've marked. Do you see? But again, I'm checking for snaking. So I'm looking down the pipe, looking to see whether it's straight. I'm checking for snaking. And then we're going to pull a 35-ish, because it's actually, if you're bending a 65 or anywhere between 65 and 70, you want to half whatever your bend is, you need to half it basically. So if you can imagine it was 70mm, then it's 35. So that's why I say 35mm-ish. So both ways you want to bend 35 from the 50mm mark that you've done. Do you see, like so? And obviously you can always pause the video if you need to check it. Do you see? So that's what we have. Just with these calculations, this is exactly how you do. This is the easiest way I can explain to someone how to do a Passover precisely. Not to sort of guess or kind of go all kind of there. No, if this is a show piece of work and you need it looking 10 out of 10, this is the way to do it. Again, there'll be other techniques. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with anyone else's techniques, but mine's the best, obviously. But if you look here now, popping it in, so that's in the center point of that. So you've got your Passover and then you've got your offset, and it all fits in correctly. So this is precision, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you have enough time on site in the real world to do this is another thing. But I'm just showing you a formula and a way of doing it. But you see there, so ideally is a 15mm space between it. Out that comes. So basically I do the same thing. I do the same thing again 2 more times, just to show basically with the same method, the same formula, you can do the same thing over and over again. So if you've got, let's say, 4 pipes going over another bit of pipe or something like that, then you can implement the same thing. Obviously I've sped it up, I'm doing it a lot faster here. But like I say, in the real world, you haven't got a vise, and it's awkward, but let me just show you here. And some of it's still snaking a little bit. So like I say, it's not perfectly straight. Like I say, you've got to persuade it and try and get it exactly right. I'm not claiming to be perfect at that part. But like I say, over time, you'll get experience and work out how to stop that from happening. If not, like I say, on your knee or on something, and just push it down a little bit. But you see, all of them are exactly the same. Well, not the pipe lengths, but yeah, all the bends are exactly the same. And that's my way, that's my formula for how to do an offset and a Passover using the Rothenberger 15 to 22mm pipe benders. Okay, so hopefully you've learned something from that. What I'll do is I'll show you the exact formula. So I'm going to leave it on the screen. The exact formula that I use for how to do an offset and a Passover on this 15mm pipe. I've got many more videos coming up, so this is one technique and one way of doing it. This is, like I say, more for sort of precision, and anyone that's sort of learning, I'd recommend them try this out. So we've got more videos coming up, and this is the end of this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and then don't forget to click on this video over here. Come look, have a little look at this video over here. We've got to keep it flowing, we've got to keep it flowing. Click on this video here and click the subscribe there. But like I say, more coming.